Let's be honest, we could bring in 100 new people into our practice, and if we can't close the back door and have those people be happy to be there, love their position, and wanted to bring their best game for our patients every day, it's just not going to work. We're going to be chasing our tails all the time. It's so incredibly costly to replace team members, yet alone stressful to just go through this over and over and over again. So yes, we have to be able to recruit people, but most importantly, we got to retain some amazing team members who love being a part of our practice.
People don't always treat their teams right. They're short with their teams or things like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Was it really the team member or was it really me? I think one of the greatest problems in dentistry, and not for any malice, just because
it empowers your team when you say, you know what, I suck at this. I can't figure this out. I really need your support in this area. I've seen people run over broken glass to get to solve that problem because they get to contribute in a meaningful way and they know that it means something. But when you are the Superman or the Superwoman and you're solving every single problem, you really don't give your team that opportunity to step in, and that creates indifference for sure. So that was really good the way you broke that down.
People either want more money or more time or both. It's, those are the biggies. So when you can figure out how to give them that entirely transforms a teammate's desire to come and be a part of the team.
Welcome back to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the owner of SMC National, where we help offices just like yours level the playing field against the big guys out there so you can grow the way that you want. But you can't grow if you're dealing with the biggest problem in dentistry right now, and it's not attracting new people to your practice, new employees. It's all about retention. And today I have Dr. David Rice, the founder and chief officer at Ignite DDS, and he's going to break down how to retain your team and also the red flags that you might be dealing with churn. He is a wealth of knowledge, and I promise you this is going to bring so much value to your practice. You're going to learn a lot from. Stay tuned. All right, we are live, and this is a great episode today because we're talking about the biggest problem in dental. And there's a little bit of nuance to this conversation because if you go into any message board or any Facebook group and you ask people, what's the biggest problem in dental? Everybody's going to say recruiting, getting new team members. And Dr. David Rice made an excellent point, and that's why we're having this podcast today. He said it's actually not recruiting that you have the problem with. Maybe that's an issue, but that's not the biggest issue. It's team retention. And could you break that down for our audience, why you think that is the biggest problem in dental?
Voting is open on Dental Woo's Top Dental Podcast. Starts on November 1st and ends on December 31st. Each vote supports the podcast. Last year, we won multiple top spots, and this year, we're hoping to do even better. This year, our goal is to get 1,000 unique voters on this podcast. Help us reach our goal, and your vote will count. Here's how to vote. There's a link right down below. Just click it. Go there and give us a thumbs up. That's all you need to do. Voting is easy. Just go to dentalwoo.com/vote or click the link below and then find Dental Marketing Go and then submit it. Super fast.
Sure. So let's be honest. We could bring in 100 new people into our practice, and if we can't close the back door and have those people be happy to be there, love their position, and wanted to bring their best game for our patients every day, it's just not going to work. We're going to be chasing our tails all the time. It's so incredibly costly to replace team members, yet alone stressful to just go through this over and over and over again. So yes, we have to be able to recruit people, but most importantly, we got to retain some amazing team members who love being a part of our practice.
Yeah, could you break down the costly part for us? Because I think this is kind of one of those hidden costs, right? It's like inflation. The way inflation kind of sneaks up on you, it's a hidden tax that you don't really feel until after the fact. And you kind of see it and it's there, but you at the end of the month, you're like, I have way less money than I had and than I normally have at the end of the month, right? And so break down why, if you don't solve the retention problem, why it's so costly.
Sure. So, we can think about it in a few different lanes within our practice. First and foremost, if we don't have a body, we can't do the work. So if you look at production in, 80% of the dental practices over the last year and a half, maybe even 2 years, and said, why is their production low? Well, it's not because their patients aren't interested in the care. They don't have the team, the bodies there to actually get the work done. So that's an obvious financial issue. The next one is the cost to train somebody to get them up to speed. So for me, as a dentist, or if it's on my hygiene side, the hygienists are actually peak performing in whatever time allotment you give for a procedure. If it's hygiene side, it's an adult, it's an hour. All of a sudden, they're not getting everything accomplished that they need to. If it's my side on the restorative side, that's my game. So unplug what I do, plug in surgery, plug in whatever your jam is in your practice. But if you're 10% slower for 90 to 100 days, 120 days, like you're in real trouble. Plus the cost then to actually the hard costs of bringing them up to speed, what it takes.
And not just that, but I think what's interesting about training, especially in a dental office, is that let's say, Dr. Rice, you bring in a new associate and you're going to train them. It actually slows you down too as you're training, right? You're not going at normal speed. So it's a double whammy, especially when you're dealing with the clinical folks. So that's a huge, huge component of turnover is that cost. I think another hidden cost, I would love your thoughts on this too, is with new team members, they don't know stuff. They don't have corporate knowledge is what we call it in the business world, right? They don't know that you're not supposed to bill people this way because if you do, they get an extra credit card fee and then the patient gets mad and they leave you a bad review and they leave, right? Like they don't, and there's hundreds of things like that in every single practice that becomes second nature to you. So it makes a rocky patient journey. You're a little bit more rocky, right? It's not maybe not horrible, but a little bit more rocky, and that costs you as well. There's a cost to that as well because you maybe increase attrition, and again, it kind of lags, so you don't see it right away. So I think there's so much cost associated with it's even hard to even pin down the exact cost to it, but we know it's massive. If you go look at the studies, it's really, really big number. So that's why it's such a big issue. That's why turnover is such a big issue. Why do you think that dental offices struggle with this so much? I think a lot of industries struggle with it, to be fair to dental. But I would say when COVID hit, dental got hit pretty hard of people that left the dental industry and never came back because they didn't like the environment that they were working in.
Yeah, a lot of dental practices did not treat team members very well for decades. And then to your point, COVID hit and team members thought, why in the world am I putting up with this when there's 10 other things I could do, make as much money? A decent number of those team members are finding out now like, oh, nursing isn't better than dental hygiene. In fact, there's a mass exodus from nursing into dental hygiene. But the reality is we didn't do a good enough job leading our teams for decades. We've got a lot of seasoned pros in dentistry who, they've been in the game for a long time. So they're also approaching retirement. So this whole retention thing is going to get a whole lot harder in the next 5 years, especially on the dental assistant side, where they're estimating up to 1/3 of assistants will leave dentistry in the next 5 years. And we don't agree on a lot of stuff in dentistry, but that's one that the quote pundits all agree on. So
that's a hard one. One thing that I noticed, I'm going to use myself as an example before I beat up on other people. So for me, when I first got started in business, I was trying to work on the business and work in the business. And I would get stressed out and I would get really agitated with people because I just worked 8 to 10 hours and now I'm working another 3 to 4 hours trying to clean up other people's messes, right? That's how I perceived it. What was really happening is I didn't really have the time to train team members, onboard them, give them the tools that they need. And then I was getting frustrated with them on that front. And I was expecting them to read my mind. So we had turnover. People are like, Gary, you're mean. You're not being nice. You're being short, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Over time, I learned like, hey, I can't do that. Like I either have to bite the bullet and just be a good soldier if I am going to have to work like this, or I have to learn how to delegate and get things off my plate, train people, get them up to speed, right? What I've noticed with dentists, this is my personal observation, is when they're trying to do full-time dentistry, where they're actually in the patient's mouth doing the dentistry, that's a hard job. And it takes a lot of focus and a lot of energy. And then if they're trying to be a CEO or run the practice or a practice owner, or whatever you want to call it, that's additional time that they're putting on their table. And they make a lot of decisions really quickly, or they don't make decisions at all. They let them sit. And sometimes they're good decisions. Sometimes they're bad decisions. Sometimes, whatever. And sometimes they're short with people, because they're just like, I just have to get through this 30-minute meeting and you need to do this and do this now. And I understand it from the entrepreneur standpoint because I've been there personally. But I've also noticed that that people don't always treat their teams right? They're short with their teams or things like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Sure. I'll give you two core principles that are, really near and dear to my heart, my practices, and people we work with all the time. First, there's green line behavior. We're on a trajectory doing lots of things well, lots of times, and then there's red line behavior trajectory. And I think one of the greatest problems in dentistry, dentists learn red line trajectory from people they believe are teaching them green line. So we go to dental school. We're largely taught by a body of faculty who has little to no business experience. It doesn't make them bad people. In fact, we need them, right? We need the clinical experience we gain from them. But what we shouldn't look to those great clinicians for is excellence and entrepreneurial. We have to understand who to learn from on a regular basis. So we're taking red line lessons from people and we think we're getting green line lessons. So we're moving in the wrong direction as opposed to in the right direction right out of the gate. The second thing that I would share with you, and you made me think of this when you kind of put yourself in the business shoes, and I would dial back to my younger self too and say, was it really the team member or was it really me? So we share everything now in terms of three things: skill, will, circumstances. And I think most of us dentists, without the training, because we just never got it, go right to will. And we think, oh, that team member X doesn't want to do it because they're just not interested in doing it. They're not great. They're not bringing their A game. But in reality, there's two layers before we get to will. And the first one is circumstances, a la, have I set our culture up for success? Yes, great. Then I can go to skill. Have I developed this team member so they can actually do the job with confidence? Then I finally get to will. But if either one of those is a no, I've got to stop at that level and I've got to bring the circumstances where they need to be and then bring the skill where it needs to be before I can actually count on somebody and say, hey, this is on them. It's really, it's a mirror test for me. And there are lessons I just didn't know as a young dentist because, again, I learned great clinical lessons. I needed to learn some different ones.
Yeah, that's really good. So two thoughts on that. It's like I love the red line, green line. I've never heard it broken down that way, but it's the way I think of dental is just like any business. You have to be good at multiple things to be successful. So a lot of dentists are taught just learn the clinical and you're good. And I know you can be the best, literally the best dentist in the world and not make money, right? And not be a successful business person, because it's like a restaurant. When I go to a restaurant, I want the food to be good. I want it to be warm and it needs to taste good. But also, they got to seat me when they say they're going to seat me. They can't make me wait in the lobby for 2 hours in the waiting room. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how good the food is at that point. It literally doesn't matter how good, because I'm mad. And then also, the servers have to be nice. They have to be nice. They have to be knowledgeable. If they're mean to me throughout the thing or they're short with me, then that I'll still eat the food. I'll still say, man, the food was really good, but I probably won't go back there, right? Dentistry is even harder than that, I would argue, because the skill level has to be higher from the clinical side. The team has to be even nicer, more compassionate. You're not dealing with excited foodies. You're dealing with anxious, unknowledgeable patients that are scared to even ask a question. So it's like you have to even ratchet up even more. So I love that you got to go to the clinical people for clinical. You also have to talk to some business people, which may be dentists, right? There's a dentist out there that have figured this out, and get the support that you need on that front. And then on the second one that you said, I use a little metrics 3. I wrote these down. I always ask myself, does this person have the tools? Have I given them the tools that they need? That might be training. It might be the computer that they need. It might be a piece of software. Do they have the time? So am I asking them to do a job that takes 12 hours and I'm only giving them 8 hours? And so do they actually have the time to get this done? And then do they have the talent? See, because sometimes the team members don't know what to ask for, right? Especially if they're new to the job or the industry. What would you say, you've been in the dental industry for some time now, what would you say a sign is for a newer dentist when you're about to have major turnover in your practice?
Boy, what is it? The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So look for people who just, maybe they were talkative before, now they're quiet. Maybe they really, really cared before. Like you just saw them engage in things and they're still doing their job. It's more mechanical. You've got to look for subtle signs from people. And what I would say is some people, based on their behavioral style, they're going to show you. But a lot of people are just going to exit quietly out the back door. So maybe for me, rather than look for a sign, get proactive and sit with people on a regular basis. Don't schedule reactive meetings where people stress and worry that they've done something wrong. Routinely have one-on-one sit downs with people, like put them on the book so everybody knows. It's like a wellness check. Tell me what's going great. Tell me where you need my help and what I can be doing better. As dentists, probably as many leaders, but only speaking dentistry since that's our world. But that was hard for me in the beginning because I felt like that meant I was doing something wrong. And it was an ego thing for me. So in the beginning, I had a hard time doing that until one day I woke up and I realized like, wow, people don't expect me to have all the answers, turns out. Like they just want me to care and really show them that like, I'm all in on you. Let me be all in on you. And if you're a good person, you'll be all in on me too. And if not, we'll both figure that out and we can part ways.
Wow. That's such a good point. Yeah. And that's a big trap for new business owners. Cause I know I was there. I was like, I got to show up and I have to give answers and I don't know a lot of this stuff. So then you end up faking it, right? So you're just like, and then that creates chaos. It creates so much chaos. What I have found, and this is scary and new people never listen to this advice, new business owners especially, but if I could go back and change it, what I would get really good at is asking for help. It empowers your team when you say, you know what, I suck at this. I can't figure this out. I really need your support in this area. I've seen people run over broken glass to get to solve that problem because they get to contribute in a meaningful way and they know that it means something. But when you are the Superman or the Superwoman and you're solving every single problem, you really don't give your team that opportunity to step in, and that creates indifference for sure. What would you say if you were going to go in, and I know it's not this simple, but if you were going to go in and you were going to help another office really fix their team morale, like they see the warning signs, they see that there's going to be turnover, what would you do to help them boost morale?
Yeah. I'll tell you, like, this is going to sound really simple, but it's not really simple at all. And that is a lower to a moderate level of trust. I would schedule a one-on-one time with every single person in your practice, get them out of the office, bring them someplace they might like to go. If they like coffee, bring them to a coffee shop. They want to go for lunch, want to go buy tea for dinner, whatever that is, but get out of the practice and sit down. And I literally would vulnerably ask said team member on the other side of that table, like, tell me what you want most out of life at home. Tell me what that, in your best world, what are you doing with your downtime? Learn about them as a person and understand that we're all motivated by something. So when you learn that individual something for every single team member, and then you simply make the connection between practice success and that person being able to live their best life at home, people get engaged. Wrap up that meeting with what you just said. I love that. Like, hey, turns out like I don't have all the answers. What I can promise you is I'm going to bring my very best to the table. Come to me, talk to me. I'm going to come to you, talk to you. When I don't know something, I'm going to go learn it. I'll bring it back. We're going to figure this thing out together. And our goal is we're going to sit down a month from now and we're going to be at least one or two steps further along that path to you living your best life at home. Because most people either want more money or more time or both. It's, those are the biggies. So when you can figure out how to give them that entirely transforms a teammate's desire to come and be a part of the team.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. Now, Dr. Rice, you not only own a dental practice, and you've been in dentistry for many years, but you also have a community for dentists. Could you tell us a little bit about Ignite DDS and what you guys do for the dental industry?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Thank you. So about 12 years ago, we started this little community called Ignite DDS. We worked primarily at the time with dental students, and the concept was we're going to grow up a whole generation of people. So today we've got a little north of 26,000 young dentists, students, and team members who work with those young dentists and students all over there, primarily North America, a little bit Europe and Asia, but primarily North America. And we bring education as it pertains to like financial control, systems control, clinical control. We need, to your point, like 30 years ago when I became a dentist, like all I had to do was be a good dentist.
Yeah.
Today, not true at all. So we try to bring that 360 approach. Some of it's on social media. It's on Instagram, primarily socially. We do LinkedIn, we do Facebook, but really Instagram is where we live. And on our website, we've got tons of blogs and videos that speak to how to gain those 3 controls. And then at the end of the day, we work with like 35 different practice locations a year, and we get in there, get into the weeds, dive deep, and show them how to really grow.
That's so cool. And what if someone wants to connect and say, hey, I want some of that, which sounds amazing. What's the best way to connect with you guys?
Sure. So I'm going to guess most of you are on social media. So just go to Ignite DDS, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you'll find us. Drop me a message and I'm happy to reach out to you. I'm on the phone with dentists like 3 times a day, 6 days a week, and team members too. It's a blast.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for sharing your passion and just making the dental industry a better place. I love the way you approach problems and try to figure them out. And you're very transparent and vulnerable. So I really appreciate that. And this is a great episode. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back at you.